Welcome to Storytime with Ellie podcast. And today we are back with Bruce Fromong, OJ Simpson's ex-manager. This is a continuation from the first podcast with Bruce, and you'll have to watch that if you did not. But today is the continuation, and we're going to talk to Bruce. He's going to explain to us the second half of OJ and what happened with him when he had that entanglement with OJ that night, that the attempted robbery with Bruce. Let's welcome you on here, Bruce. Let's go.
Hey, how you doing? That's an interesting way of putting it.
I was trying to think, wait a minute, there's no script.
How you
nice,
doing?
all right. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah. The famous September 13th, 2007. Yeah.
Only a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was a while back, but it's still always fresh. And remembering that's a night that will involve me and OJ for the rest of my life for sure.
And the story.
Yeah. You look up my name and he comes up, and you look up his name and my name comes up. So
you two will always be connected.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because when people introduce me, a lot of people, they'll say, yeah, this is the guy that was robbed by OJ. They don't talk about all the other famous athletes I've dealt with all my life.
I know. I mean, maybe touch on a few of those today too, and who you talked to.
Yeah.
Communication.
And it was funny because I was just out in Chicago this past year, and I'll be walking around the national convention. We have once a year we have a big national sports convention, and I'll still have people that'll walk up and say, "Hey, aren't you the guy?" And I'll go, "Yeah, I'm the guy."
You should tell no. What guy? No.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah. But we'll always be tied together, and that's just the way life is.
Do you think OJ saw that other podcast?
I don't know. You got to send him. You got to send him a copy to his Twitter account.
You got to do that.
He's the Donald Trump of the sports tweeter. He likes his little Twitter account. Oh yeah, funny. He likes to comment on different things, and he's got his Twitter account that he goes out and talks about different things. And
all right, so maybe we should put us on there, that little clip with you.
Oh yeah.
Look at that way. It's all good. So anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about where we left off, and if you want to, you got the floor. This is your story.
Well, it was, that was an interesting night because I had never met Tom Riccio until the night of the actual robbery. We were talking about that before because he had actually gone to OJ and said, I know somebody that has thousands of pieces of your personal memorabilia, which was total BS. The guy had never met me a day in his life. And then he went to Alfred Beardsley, a guy that had bought memorabilia from me over the years, and said, I have a collector that wants to buy $100,000 worth of memorabilia. And Alfred came to me and said, hey, there's an auctioneer, has somebody that wants to buy OJ Simpson, $100,000 worth of OJ Simpson memorabilia. And that's how this all came to be. Oh. And, they kept trying to set it up. At first they said, because Alfred was kind of a strange character in himself, as everybody learned later on. I mean, he was very unreliable. He'd call me at times and say, oh, I want to buy this or I want to buy that, and then I wouldn't hear from him for a couple months, and then he'd pop back up again because he kept saying, well, we want you to bring it all to LA. And I said, I'm not packing $100,000 worth of OJ Simpson memorabilia to Los Angeles. And I said, if they want, they can come, to my business here in Las Vegas. And so finally they agreed to do that. And I said, they can come here to my warehouse. And they said, no, this guy's a little eccentric, doesn't like dust and dirt and whatever. And I said, well, that's fine, and they said, well, how about at a hotel? And I said, that's fine. I understand. There's there's people that, don't want to go to a warehouse or whatever. And, I felt comfortable with that. I said, as long as it's not in some back alley or, on the street somewhere, I'm not, taking $100,000 worth of memorabilia somewhere where I don't feel comfortable with it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they went, they tossed around different dates, humming and hawing. And with Alfred, I just kind of said whatever. I really wasn't too too concerned about it. They threw around a couple different dates, and I said, yeah, whatever. And finally they came up with the September 13th, 2007, and they came up with Palace Station. And I said, fine, not a problem. So I packed up, and this is 95% of everything was just normal sports memorabilia. It's regular photographs that we have him sign over time, regular footballs, that he had signed over time. There were a few items in there. There was a USC football, that a Kodak football, when they have the Kodak players, the Bob Hope Kodak team. Each player is presented a football. They all sign it and they all get one. And I can't remember the players that were on it, but I had purchased that online. There was different stuff. I had bought stuff from Mike Gilbert, my ex-business partner. We had talked about Mike, I think, in the last podcast. And Mike had
stuff. You bought this. It wasn't where you were friends with him and he handed it to you.
Well, and there was actually a couple of items in there that he had actually given me himself at one time or another, and but there were things that I had bought from Mike, and that Mike was part of the group that I think we talked about, that when we found out that the sheriff's department was going to raid OJ's house for the claim for the Goldmans, that Mike and OJ's sister and a couple other people had removed all the stuff, a lot of the valuable stuff from OJ's house, including the Heisman at the time. Mike was one of the people that took all the stuff out, and Mike, ended up selling a lot of that stuff, rather than keeping it for OJ, because OJ had, said, hey, I don't ever want the Goldmans to get this stuff. I know I can't have it, but, I don't want the Goldmans. I don't care what happens to it as long as the Goldmans never get their hands back on it. And, I had purchased everything, I had received everything legally. And that's one of the things, we talked about later on, when Gilbert wrote his book, he said that I had taken this stuff from him, which was kind of funny because he did an article in the National Enquirer where he turned all this stuff over. He supposedly had gotten a guilty conscience about OJ, and supposedly OJ had told him that he had murdered Nicole. And my ex-business partner wasn't the greatest of character either. He had ended up, we talked about him and Christy Prody, and he always needed money. He was a deadbeat dad, didn't pay his child support, was always needed money. He didn't write the book How I Helped OJ Get Away with Murder until after he ran out of money again and the gravy train was dry from OJ. And that's when he tried throwing me under the bus. He put a chapter in there about me, and he never knew how much money. He never, and that's the reason I never knew Mike know how much money I actually had, because he was always trying to borrow money from me, and that's why I started buying stuff from him rather than lending him money.
Oh yeah, smart.
Yeah, and so the stuff,
all that money.
And the stuff I had obtained legally. None of it was stolen from OJ, and even OJ had even admitted that I had never stolen anything from him. If the stuff had been stolen from him, it wasn't by me.
Right, it was that Michael.
Yeah, it was Mike, and
But
it
still,
could have been other people, but
yeah.
I had obtained everything I had legally. And, it's just not something, that's not in my character.
Mm.
That's why I've lasted in this business so long too, because I've tried to, I keep everything above board with my dealings.
Right.
And,
And you're still doing that. And we're going to talk about that too in a minute, about your
yeah,
fundraisers.
yeah,
Talk about that
yeah,
too. But that's really
but
interesting.
yeah. So anyway, we get there. I meet up. That's the first night I'd ever met this guy, Tom Riccio. Now, Tom Riccio, I found out later on, down the road, had a lengthy criminal record, had done time in jail. Um, this is a very unsavory character. And if I had known that, I would have never have dealt with him in the first place. But, he came out to my truck. I put everything in the truck, took it to the Palace Station. I had taken my gun with me. I mean, I've got $100,000 worth of sports memorabilia.
Right.
Got down to the Palace Station. Beardsley introduces me to Tom Riccio. And if you ever have seen the guy, he's kind of a rugged looking character, not real well kept.
We did a picture.
Yeah,
Maybe we can find
and
one.
yeah, and he says, "Well, what do you got?" So I take him out to the truck, and he looks at the stuff, and he says, "This is all you brought?" I said, "Yeah." What are you expecting?
Mm.
And so he looks at the stuff, and I pull my gun out and I put it, and he says, "Oh, you brought a gun?" I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "There's a lot of stuff here," and I put it in the glove compartment in my truck. And so we brought a bellhop out, we load it all up, and we take it down to the room because I don't need my gun. We're going in a casino. So I no longer feel the need to have, protection. Once you're in a casino, you think you're in a safe environment.
Yeah, well, you would think, right? Well,
Yeah. And we take it down to the room, and we laid it all out on the bed so that when his supposed collector gets there, he can take a look at everything. And, we've got photographs, we've got footballs, we've got all kinds of stuff, laid out. And I had also brought, because I thought, well, this is a collector, maybe he might be interested in something else. So I brought some Joe Montana lithographs. I brought some Pete
I was
Rose
going to ask
baseball.
that if you bought
You
anybody
know,
else other than
yeah, some Duke Schneider baseballs. Um, uh, Jose Canseco bat. I brought some other stuff too. Just, who knows what this guy might be interested
exactly. Yeah.
in, And and we sit there and we talk because we got there, I think it was probably about 5 o'clock, because I think we were supposed to meet at 6.
Mm.
And we're talking, and Ricio's shooting the breeze and talking about wanting to buy some more books, because I had taken some of the I Want to Tell You. That was the book that OJ wrote when he was in jail, because a lot of people were writing letters to OJ and he was answering them. So during the time while he was in jail, they afterwards they ended up doing a book, I Want to Tell You. It was OJ answering the letters.
Mm.
And they put the book out while OJ was still in jail for the 94 and 95 murders of his ex-wife, Nicole.
Mm.
And I had, I think it was 18 or 20 books. No, I think it was 20 books. And they only ever recovered 18 of them. But so we're sitting in the room, and like I said, he's going, "Well, do you have more of these?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got more of them."
Mm.
And he's asking me, well, can blah, blah, blah. And that's when I ended up calling, I cannot remember the gal's name. It was Mike Gilbert's girlfriend, because she had a bunch of them that Mike had given her. And I was talking to her on the phone.
Mm.
And I had walked out in the hallway, and that's when Riccio came out and said, "Hey, the people are here. I'm going to go down and get them. Why don't you go ahead and step in the room?" So I was still on the phone talking with her when Riccio went down to get them.
Gotcha.
And
Wow.
and because he's saying, well, I'd like to buy a couple hundred more of these books. I said, that's fine. Let me see what I can do. And that's when all hell broke loose.
Yeah,
Because I was still on the phone
really.
when yeah. And
Yeah, so she heard everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she was during the trial. They called her the voice on the ear on the phone.
Yeah.
And
Fly on the wall.
yeah, because she could hear everything.
Yeah.
When they first broke in. You
Mhm.
know, he opens the door for him. The door busts open. They come rushing in. I'm on the phone. And the first thing I did is I reached back because I usually keep my gun on my back under my coat, and it wasn't there
Yeah, and
because
he
they
knew you
come
left
rushing
it in
in.
the truck.
Yeah, and I had um, uh, they had their guns drawn. Two guys had guns. They were both drawn, and the one guy rushes right up on me and hits me and almost knocks me into a chair. And like I say, it was something because there's a lot of shouting and hollering,
Yeah.
and OJ's hollering mostly at Beardsley. I mean, he only talks to me twice the whole time.
So when did you first see OJ? You must have fell asleep for a second. When they came in the door?
Well, no, OJ wasn't even the first one through the door.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
He was like the
you went
fourth
down
or
to
fifth
get them,
one
right?
in.
Mm.
I mean and it's hard for me to remember who actually was the first one through the door.
Mm.
But
So
I
you're on
know
the
that
phone and somebody come back through the door. Somebody walks in the door when you're on the
yeah,
phone.
well, they weren't walking, but
Oh,
I know that McClinton was either the first or the second one in. He's the one
wow.
holding the door. Um, and like I say, the one guy hits me in the shoulder, almost knocks me into his chair. I come back up, and McClinton walks right over to me, puts the gun in my face, gangster style.
God.
This guy is supposed to be a licensed security guy with
Oh
his
my
own security company. Puts the gun in my face, gangster style, within 18 inches of my face.
oh my
And he says, um, if we were in LA, things would be different. I'd shoot your ass.
wow.
And that's when, and OJ's saying that he didn't know there was guns in the room. Well, I know that he did know there was, because he's the one that's going and put the gun down, put the gun, and he's waving, put the gun down, put the gun down.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I didn't say a word. I just kept my mouth shut, and I look at McClinton like this.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you
And
gonna do?
I'm looking him straight, because I'm not going to look away. I'm not going to show fear. And I just look at him, and that's when he backed up, because OJ's put the gun down. But who knows? OJ might have saved my life,
Yeah. Yeah. But meanwhile,
because this guy's trying to act badass.
oh yeah, and I guarantee you, I mean, and that's something, believe me, OJ wouldn't want that either.
No.
Involved with something else. I mean, that would not have been good. And now you're in a
Yeah.
hotel. So even if they shot you, somebody's gonna hear something. You would think something. There would have been records, just cameras. They would have saw something at the
Yeah.
hotel.
Well, I mean, and
Right?
it's just,
I mean, they wouldn't have
well,
gotten
and
away with that.
no, because they've got pictures of them coming into the
That's what I'm
hotel.
saying. So it'd be
They've got
smart.
pictures of them going out of the
Yeah.
hotel. There was no question that it was OJ Simpson,
Right.
and who the guys were. And, and the guys,
Right.
like I say, OJ only talks to me twice. He wants Mike Gilbert's phone number, and
That was crazy. Why do you want? You didn't have his number?
and he says,
That's not
how
his
could you
friend?
steal? No. And he said, how could you steal from me? And I said, OJ, I didn't steal from you, And he's talking about they're taking, they're yelling, bag this stuff up, take the pillowcases, bag this stuff up. Not OJ, these other guys. Because like I say, most of the time he's yelling at Beardsley. Because that day, I found out that, he's there for Mike Scotto's wedding. He's been drinking. He's been doing drugs that day. He's flying. He is flying, and if he had have just realized, that, and take them a moment to say, oh, Bruce, it's you. Everybody out of this room. We need to talk for a second.
So you actually think, wait a minute, so I'm a little, do you think, now you think OJ didn't realize it was you that they were going to rob?
No, he had no idea. I'll be truthful. In all honesty, I think that he thought it was going to be Mike Gilbert in that room.
Okay.
He really, because
And then
like I
hard to
say,
believe that they wouldn't have said, I'm meeting this guy named Bruce. Everyone's got a name.
no, he was never told who it was.
Wow. Okay.
I think he actually thought it was going to be Mike Gilbert in that room.
Wow.
Because he, I don't know,
Yeah, but then when he saw it was you, he should have then said, oh, wait a minute, this is Bruce.
that's just it. If he
You
had
said
just said,
he was at a party, right?
everybody out of here, we need to talk for a second.
Yeah, that's something
And
weird.
if
I don't want
he
to
could have just,
yeah, but something's
yeah,
not right.
if he had looked and seen, oh,
Yeah.
these are footballs I've signed for him over the years. These are just
Yeah.
plain old photographs. This is,
Like he wasn't even there
there's,
mentally. Yeah.
yeah, nothing would have happened. And the
Hmm.
few things that had to belong to him in the past, I would have, we could have worked something, something out. But it was just stupid. Like I say, he was flying. He
I was
wasn't
gonna say it
thinking,
was probably drug
he
related.
wasn't thinking rationally.
Yeah, he wasn't. But
You
luckily
know?
enough to save your life to where he told them not to
Yeah.
down or do whatever he said. I mean, yeah, that saved your life.
Yeah.
It wasn't your time because
That's just
everything,
it.
buying drugs and everything else. A lot of times that's not the outcome.
Yeah. And they
Realize-
ended up bagging everything up, and he started, they're I go, OJ, those are Joe Montana lithographs, trying to get him to, think a little bit, and, not, it just, and like I said, there's hollering and screaming. This whole thing took probably 4 minutes. That's how quick this happened. These guys are hollering and screaming.
So then
and
they take all your stuff and they leave.
And they leave.
So when did you realize that, okay, I was just robbed? Obviously,
yeah, and they leave. And this Riccio guy is kind of playing, he's playing the victim. And I'm thinking in my mind, I knew I'd been set up. I didn't know who I'd been set up by. Was it Riccio and Beardsley? Was it Beardsley? Was it Riccio? I don't know. And we're sitting in there talking and stuff. And, we made a couple, just robbed by OJ. What the,
Yeah.
And I was peeved. And, I was trying to, I made a couple of comments in there, about, trying to figure out who it was. And trying to, kind of get at these guys and figure out who had done what. Yeah. And Beardsley still had his phone. They hadn't taken his phone. They took my phone. And so Beardsley, and Riccio's going, oh, don't call the police. Don't call the police. And Beardsley calls 911 right away. And that's when I went down to the front desk. And the guy at the front desk is, I said, hey, I was just robbed by OJ Simpson. And the guy at the front desk started laughing. And I said, man, this ain't no joke.
Oh my God.
I said, this isn't funny. I was just robbed by OJ Simpson. Now get your damn security manager out here.
He must have thought you were like hallucinating.
Yeah.
Taking some kind of drug.
And he said, you're not, I said, no. And I'm getting
flashbacks. Oh
yeah. And it was, I think we may have even covered this in the first interview. They got the security guy out there, and he was kind of the same way at first.
Oh, we didn't talk about this in the first interview.
Yeah. 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 And it was just, who thinks that you're going to get robbed by OJ Simpson?
Yeah.
Of all people.
Yeah. You think he would have really tried keeping a low profile.
Yeah. And, after they do the cops get there, they do they're doing the interviews. And I guess they took Riccio out in the hallway. Riccio calls OJ, gets him on the phone for the cops. And he says, come on over. He's staying at the Palms. OJ says, yeah, guys, come on over.
Did he realize what happened or no?
I hadn't, because I'm worried. My wife was sitting at home. I called her and said, hey, honey, she's sitting here. I told her, because we're thinking, well, maybe, if they're that way, they may go ahead and try to come
to the house. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's sitting here at the house. She gets her gun out here, and turns the lights on the outside of the house and turns the lights off on the inside of the house. And I flat told her, I said, if anybody tries to come in the house that doesn't identify themselves as the police, then, I said, you shoot first and ask questions later.
Yeah, especially now.
And because she's scared to death. And,
I probably would have got out of
doesn't
the
know
house
what's
and ran
going on
somewhere.
because it's on TV. I mean, news crews are all over the place. And then, they're crawling outside our house. And it was mayhem. It was
Wow.
mayhem. And I didn't get to go home until 7 o'clock the next morning.
Well, yeah, you probably got to fill all the reports out, right?
Yeah, reports, interviews, and they won't, it was just, and she's scared. She's here alone. So yeah, it was a very dramatic.
It sounds like it. Oh my God. I mean, I think it was even scary for your wife.
Yeah, and they don't arrest him.
Yeah.
They don't arrest him. He goes to the the wedding and does his thing. And he's still out running around, and I'm worried for her. And like I say, and we couldn't stay here at the house because the place was crawling with police. I mean, not police, but with news crews and everything else. So we ended up having to go to a hotel and check in under another name just so we could,
get some rest.
Get some rest and privacy.
So now you got robbed. You go back. You're doing what you just said you did. Now, when did it finally dawn on OJ that he robbed? Was involved in this robbery?
Well, the thing was,
is that
yeah. Well, the next day, he ends up calling my cell phone and saying, "Hey, Bruce, I want to get your stuff back to you, man. I didn't mean to." Well, the dummy, he took my cell phone.
Oh.
So I can't get that message. Yeah, you did rob me, OJ. And a little too late.
Yeah, a little too late. Oh my God. So then the rest is they obviously arrest him.
Yeah, I think they didn't arrest him right away. He went back to Florida.
Oh wow.
He went to the wedding, went back to Florida, and but then they put out a warrant for his arrest, and I guess I can't remember. I think he came back on his own, and but yeah, he was handled with kid gloves. I mean, they really did. They were very careful about how they did it.
Yeah. Wow. So then he comes back. He gets incarcerated. They arrest him, right?
They arrest him. He gets bail, and he's not supposed to communicate with anybody. From the robbery, he does. His bail bondsman has to go back out, bring him back again. They settle that out because OJ just he thinks he's privileged. And he gets in a little more trouble, with over that. And but again, it gets taken care of. And what we never knew, and we didn't find out until the trial, is that his own lawyer was involved in the robbery.
Oh my God.
Yeah. His damn lawyer was involved in the robbery because when he got back, he gives the stuff to his lawyer.
Oh my God. So that made him absolutely he's involved now.
Yeah. So, I mean, talk about a conflict of interest, and his lawyer represents him during the trial. I mean, it is just, this is a zoo. This is a zoo, this whole thing.
A joke.
Yeah. I mean, it's just.
They were untouchable. They felt that there was no ramifications for what they did.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything is just, I mean, it's just beyond, we find out that, he robs me, he takes the stuff, gives it to his lawyer, so in reality, his lawyer was involved with the robbery.
And nothing happened to him either. Who's his lawyer?
Glanter, I believe was his name.
Okay.
Out of Florida.
Yeah.
So his lawyer is involved in this robbery, in receiving stolen goods.
Yeah.
which he's never charged with.
Yeah.
So then finally we get to the trial.
Oh my God.
And preparing for it. And the district attorney, I am so jaded about the trials and the law. I have learned that trials are not about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Mm.
That is the furthest thing.
Yeah.
Because Beardsley had come out ahead of time and said, because Riccio didn't turn those tapes in for 8 days. He had because we all know that he taped the whole thing. He had a tape recorder hidden up on top of the.
Kidding me? Why?
He figured that something would happen, during when OJ came in, and he'd get a couple $1,000s for recording this little whatever was going to happen.
Oh my God.
He would sell the tape for a few $1,000s and make a little bit of money. Well, we later found out during the trial that because the judge made him disclose how much money he made. He tried to even hide that. He said, well, I signed paperwork that I wouldn't disclose the amount. And she said, no, you will disclose it. Yeah. So he admitted that he made $320,000 between doing interviews, selling the tape to TMZ. He didn't turn that tape over to the police for 8 days. Well, Beardsley came out publicly and said that tape has been altered. And when I sat down with the DA and the assistant DA, my wife and I, in closed door before the trial, I told the DA the tape had been altered. And the DA looked at me. This is Roger Cook, I believe was his name. The DA looked at me and said, I did not hear that. You did not say that. And you will never say that again unless directly asked. And I said, and he said, did you hear what I just said? And I started to say something again, and my wife kicked me under the table.
Oh, yeah. God, he'll be pulling a gun next. Wow. Scary.
So,
yeah.
And, and the DA and I did not get along during this trial at all, because they wanted me to, they kept trying to change my words. Well, we want you to say it this way, and we want you to do it. And he wanted me to take amnesty. He said, well, we want to give you amnesty. I said, I don't want amnesty. And he said, well, if it comes out that maybe you did something wrong. I said, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, maybe, we don't know for sure. But if something, if they were to find that
they were trying to say that you did take this stuff from him. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to turn it around and make it think like maybe you did steal this stuff.
This was the DA though.
Yeah, but this wasn't,
this was and I said, I haven't done anything wrong. This isn't stolen goods. This isn't, everything I did was above board, and everything I have done, and I will not take amnesty. I refuse it.
Well, they think he
really got mad at me because I refused to. And I said, if I take amnesty, I look like I've done something wrong, and I will not do it. And that was the beginning of our, we just did not get along at all.
Wow. That's some crazy
stuff. We did not get along at all, the DA and I. And because I refused to, I would only say what I felt, and he just really did not. I guess
yeah, well, that was
and it was funny because it was funny because I had a lawyer that was advising me, and afterwards, like I say, my wife kicked me under the table. So afterwards, I had a meeting with my lawyer, and he said, Bruce, look, he said, that OJ robbed you, right? And I said, yeah. He says, so does it really matter if the tape has been altered or not? And I said, well, it does to me. It's supposed to be about the truth. And he said, look,
this DA, there's no truth nowhere.
Yeah. He said, he says, this is a very dangerous, this DA is very dangerous. He said, you don't want to cross this DA. He said, he's a very powerful guy. He said, you don't want to cross him.
And I'm sure they all knew each other as well. They're all connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. You got to like know when to.
He said, Bruce, let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go. So I did. And, but we just never, this DA and I just never did get along. Like I say, I wouldn't take amnesty. I wouldn't say things that, if I felt that it wasn't right to say it the way he wanted me to say it, then, I said, I'm not going to let you put words in my mouth.
No, and right. So with your attorney, now you got your DA. So where do you go from here? So now when do they arrest OJ yet when you were doing this or not yet?
Oh yeah, no, they had already, like I say, he'd already, yeah, this is, coming up on the trial and stuff.
Okay. All right,
and,
so you're in jail and you're now dealing with what you have to deal with.
Yeah, I went through everything. And then, we all know that, 3 days after that was the other thing, 3 days after the robbery, I was in LA and I had done a couple of interviews. I was staying at the Beverly Hilton and I'd done Good Morning America. I did a couple of different interviews and I ended up having 3 heart attacks and I died twice on the table.
Oh my God, I could put you on the NDE or they had.
I ended up dying.
Wow.
And I mean, physically dying. I was lucky. I ended up at Cedars-Sinai.
Oh,
and
wow.
So where they train cardiologists, I had what they call the widowmaker. 40% of the people that have my heart attack don't make it.
Really?
And,
oh my God,
it was, yeah, well, I was laying on the table while they were working on me, trying to put me out. And I smiled and I said, hey guys. And the doctor looked down at me. I said, I'm leaving you. Bye. And everything just went. And I woke up 11 and a half hours later in the cardiac ICU with burn marks all up and down the side of me.
Oh my
From, we're clear.
Oh my, did you see anything? And did you have any near-death experience on that?
No, it was, like I say, it went dark. No voices, no lights, no nothing. I got cheated.
I was going to say, well, then maybe you need to turn your life around and do good things. So when you die again, you see kinds of bright lights and angels. Only because I just had someone on before you that had showed, her experience with NDE, near-death experience. So she told me what she saw. And
well, I love the quote. Somebody said in a movie one time, heaven won't have me and hell's afraid I'll take over.
Oh my God, that's a good one. That's a good one. Oh wow. Okay, so you did, thank God. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow.
And so yeah, it's been tough. And then during the trial, the first day of the trial, they questioned me all day. I was on the stand for almost 8 hours, and I ended up. I was so exhausted, my heart started beating so hard they had to stop the questioning, and they took me out in the hallway. The paramedics had to come, and you know who the first guy to come out and check on me was? OJ. He came out, and they wouldn't let him near me, but he came to my son and said, "Is he going to be okay?" OJ came out to check on me.
Yeah, he probably really did feel bad for you. I mean, people do crazy things, especially when it's drug related.
Yeah. And so the next day I came back and testified for another half a day. And then on the third day, one of the strangest things happened. One of the things that is not supposed to ever happen in a trial. I had to go back and sign some paperwork. And so I was up on the courtroom, the same floor as the courtroom. And I was walking down to sign some paperwork. Well, the court had taken a break. And normally the defendant will go back and use the bathroom in the back behind the backside of the courtroom. Well, instead, they let OJ, without an escort, walk outside the courtroom. And we ran into each other. That is never ever supposed to happen. And OJ and I walked into each other, And he says, Bruce, can we talk for a sec? I said, sure, Juice. We walked over in a corner. Nobody saw us.
Oh my God.
And we're standing over in the corner talking. And he said, man, because this is the first time we have ever talked since the robbery. And, he said, man, I'm sorry about it, man. He says, and we got this saying, he goes, brother, it is what it is. He said, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And we shook hands. And I said, Juice, I forgive you, man. It's something that happened.
Yeah.
And we shook hands. And that's when a couple of the media people saw us and started to rush over. And then everybody else started to rush over.
Yeah.
But
Now you start thinking, yeah.
But anything could have happened out there. He could have been vengeful towards me. I could have been vengeful towards him. I mean, that should have never, ever have happened.
Never.
But in this case, we ended up shaking hands. And, he said, I'm sorry. And I said, I forgive you. And a lot of people don't understand why I forgave him. Because this ruined, in a lot of ways, it ruined my life. This whole thing between doctor bills, lawyer bills, and everything else,
and just time taken out of your life.
Yeah.
What you could have made money doing your work. Absolutely, it hindered you to do anything else other than think about this trial and do what you had to do.
Yeah, and in the end, when it was all said and done, it bankrupted me. It took me. I finally ended up getting stuff back, but after. And we'll go into it here a little bit more later on. But when it was all said and done, I was worth almost $2 million. And when it was all said and done, it bankrupted me.
Terrible. Yeah.
This whole thing. And
aggravation.
Yeah. And and it's all because some guy wanted to be, wanted to try to make a couple $1,000 making a recording, this Recio guy.
Yeah.
He ruined two people's lives. He ended up setting OJ up, by lying to him about me having his personal memorabilia, which was a total lie. It ended up, I ended up having heart attacks, dying, all this kind of stuff. But when it was all over, OJ ends up going to jail for, as we know, for just over 9 years. It ends up ruining my life.
I didn't even know that. He went to jail for almost 9 years over that?
9 years. The judge. Now, here's the other thing.
Oh my God, I must have been under a rock. No, I don't think I knew that.
Well, and when they, like I said, I didn't get along with the judge. I didn't get along with the, with the DA. It was just, the whole thing was just, because they asked for an impact statement. I gave it to them. What's the stuff worth? I gave it to them. Well, the judge, instead of taking what, because they never asked me what the stuff was worth, the judge looks on, they never recovered. There was almost 300 and some photos that were never recovered. They recovered part of them.
They sold them and made money.
Well, they recovered most of the stuff, but there were over 300 photos that were never recovered. There was about 1,000 items total when it was all that they did recover, but there were almost 300 photos that were never recovered.
Okay.
But some of the stuff was never recovered, and rather than asking what the stuff was, she goes on eBay, which is a basement sales, and she has no idea what stuff is worth, so she goes on eBay and says, oh, the Duke Schneider balls are worth $25.
Now, who went on?
These have special inscriptions of them from Duke Schneider, who was deceased at the time. She goes on eBay. She's these Pete Rose apology balls. I'm sorry I bet on baseballs. She goes, oh, those are worth $35.
Oh.
Stuff like this. And she just,
wow.
It was ridiculous.
Crazy.
Yeah, what she does. And then I'm sorry, I get a little emotional with this stuff because it just,
Yeah, it's talking about it. It's like a narrative
Yeah,
therapy. You're open the feeling back up again of what you went through.
yeah.
We call it
And
narrative
we
therapy.
talked, and then we get I went to McClinton's sentencing. This is the guy that threatened to kill me, put a gun in my face, threatened to kill me.
Mhm.
And we talk about gun laws and gun enforcement. This is a judge who is her husband is now the DA here in Las Vegas. Her husband's a DA.
Yeah, who again? Yeah, 'cause I kind of missed that up.
The Judge Glass.
Okay.
She was the judge for the OJ.
Oh,
Now
okay. I
her
didn't
husband
realize
is the
that.
DA now. Her husband is the DA now,
Okay.
and so she's sentencing McClinton. This is the guy that put the gun in my face and threatens to kill me, and she gives him 4 years probation. And I didn't mean to do it, but when she did that, I went, "What?"
He's
I
the
said
guy
it
that
out loud.
he was the ringleader. He was there. They did the worst thing.
Yeah, he does the worst thing of all. He
Mm.
comes up and threatens to kill me. And it wasn't planned, but I go, "What?" out loud.
Oh
And
yeah.
she stops the whole proceedings and goes, "Who said that?"
Oh,
And she goes, "Bailiff, I want him removed from the courtroom." "No, I want him removed from the courthouse."
really?
She kicks me completely out of the courthouse. And she gives this guy, we're talking about gun laws and toughening it up about,
Yeah.
and she gives this guy probation,
Ration is she
you
still?
know?
Oh my
No,
God.
but she did get a TV show out of it.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And now her husband's the DA. And
Wow.
this guy, and it was funny because I'm a Republican, and I very um, active in the Republican Party for quite a while. And when he was running for office again, he came in and was speaking. Um, I asked him when he came to speak at the Republican luncheon. I said, "Well, since your wife isn't that tough on gun laws, what's your stance on it?"
Oh wow.
And because everybody just shakes their head when
Yeah.
because I'm one of those guys. I don't vote along party lines. I vote on who I like in office.
Right.
Unfortunately, I think that more people need to start doing that. These party lines are starting to get ridiculous because the Republican and Democrats are no longer buying for the people; they're for themselves. And
Exactly. Okay.
our politicians nowadays. I'm getting off subject, but
Well, no,
our
that's another podcast.
yeah, isn't
No, I
that a
agree.
truth?
I know. Yes, totally.
Yeah,
Wow.
but and even and when she did her uh sentencing of OJ, she starts off her sentencing of OJ, which was the day before. She says, "I want it understood, this has nothing to do with the criminal trial in 1995.
Well, obviously it did if he got 9
Well,
years.
then why bring it up?
Right. So he gets 9 years, which I didn't know. So right there,
Well, here's the other thing
but
though.
we gotta flip it around to when
She
he went in and uh only because I don't want us to run out of this time.
oh
So
yeah.
we get to go to the third podcast. So okay, so the part where he gets he gets put away. I
Yep.
did not know he served 9 years. I was under a rock,
Well, she actually gave him 9 to 33 years.
Okay,
And
but
that
he
was the
got out
funny
9,
thing.
that's what you did, right? You went in now, right? If I'm
Yeah.
correctly. You went on and you were asking for him to
I
release.
said 1 to 3 years,
Hmm.
and they completely ignored that.
Hmm.
Completely ignored it and gave him 9 to 33. And the funny thing was that 33 years is the same amount that they found him liable for in the civil trial in LA was $33 million.
Hmm.
Isn't that kind of a coincidence? Has nothing to
I
do
think
with it,
he
but
had the
she gives
wrong judge.
9 to 33.
He had nothing. He had the wrong judge,
Oh yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
She was getting her little
Don gets
statement in.
4 years probation, and then
Yeah.
he gets that. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I won't get into that right now because I'm. But anyway, so you then go and on behalf. What made you say, okay, let me try to get him out of jail? I think when I met you, he was still in jail. And
Right. Oh yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about that with the beams. I was like, maybe we can get OJ to talk on the beam.
Yeah.
He was in prison. Okay.
Right. Well, when he came up for parole in 2017, um, I wasn't it 17? Yeah, 17 or 19. Was it
Uh,
19? It was 19.
I was it 19? Because I know
Yeah, I think it was 19.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 19 when he came up for actual release. But I went to his parole hearing, and I spoke for him at his parole hearing and I told him, I said, I told him then and there that I had, said 1 to 3 years. I'm the guy that was robbed, not the state.
Mhm.
And I said, let him out. And I told him then and there, that if he wanted me to, I'd pick him up. And but some of OJ's personality even showed at the parole hearing, because he still got testy, a little testy, and said, well, it was even proven that the stuff was mine in court. No, it wasn't, OJ.
He had 9 years.
Because I had to, the Goldmans, and that was the other thing, the Goldmans put in a claim in California because they said, well, if the stuff was OJ's, then it's ours. And they sent a petition to Nevada to Judge Glass. And rather than giving me my stuff back, Judge Glass sent it all the stuff that was stolen. She sent it to California. And I had to go to California and fight in California courts for 2 years to get my own stuff back.
My God, what's crazy? So there was more robberies than just OJ that night.
Oh yeah,
there was robberies everywhere. Everybody, even the judges.
Yeah, I got robbed the second time because I had to go to California for 2 years and fight in California courts against the Goldmans and OJ's lawyers again to get my own stuff back. I had to go back 27 years and prove piece by piece by piece by piece that it was my stuff. And it finally came down to the last 16 items we were fighting over. And
what were those
finally,
what were those items worth, those last 16 items? Why you fought like that?
A couple $1,000s.
Okay.
A few $1,000s. It wasn't that much, but it was just, I was fighting for the principle. And that's the only reason. And I spent more money getting my stuff back than what it was worth. It was over $100,000 worth of stuff. But the thing is that I had to prove that stuff was mine, because if I didn't, there wasn't an athlete would have ever worked with me again. Because if they had a thought that I actually had stolen from my own client, that was my reputation on the line. That's why I went to California, to prove that stuff was mine. Wow. And I did. It came down to the last 16 items out of almost 1,000 items. And rather than the judge even down there saying, okay, something, you've proved that 984 of these items are yours. Yeah, those 16 items, they're yours.
I get it. So I understand why you did that. The principle behind it was the fact that you just said it. If you didn't fight and get this clear that these were if you walked away, it would have looked like you were guilty. And that you did take these. And now let's turn it around to today, what you're doing, because we're like a little bit in time here. We can always do a third podcast, but I wanted to, in other words, this is still your career. That's what I'm getting.
Yes. I still represent athletes. I still represent Heisman Trophy winners. I still represent, I still do signings with athletes across the country. I'm still, I still do stuff with guys. A lot of Heisman guys, Mike Rozier, Johnny Rogers, Earl Campbell, Tony Dorsett. These are all Heisman brothers of OJ's. Friends, guys that were friends of his.
Yeah, because I get it. It would have looked terrible if you didn't fight.
Yeah, those guys would have never have dealt with me again if they thought that I had stolen from one of their Heisman brothers, let alone an athlete, a client.
Yeah, so that was smart then. Aggravated, but at least it's like anything else. If you didn't do that,
yeah, I had to fight for my own honor.
Yeah. So you did
I had to clear my name. I was the guy that looked guilty.
So then OJ gets released due to the fact that you went in there and testified And at that point, he must have been extremely happy. He gets released. And
Yeah.
now what does he do today? Real quick, if we can just.
He's living here in Vegas. He didn't go back to Florida. Which
Okay.
was a good thing because Florida was not a healthy environment for him.
Okay.
You know, he's living here in Vegas. We run across each other every now and then. We ran across each other just a couple months ago on the golf course. Ended up hugging. You know, I mean, he saw
You have
me
to
and
sign a
just came
golf
over.
ball?
Hey, how you doing, buddy? You
You have
know,
to sign a golf ball?
no, no, but you know, we ended up saying hi. How you doing? You know, we run across each other every now and then on the golf
Yeah.
course. Still do signings with him.
Okay,
You
so
know.
you're
He's
all
still
good.
doing signings and you know, doing it. He does his thing, I do mine. You know, we don't hang with each other.
Right,
But you know, there's no ill will there.
right.
You
So
know,
that's
I
good.
mean,
So you're all
I
under,
wish it hadn't have happened. You know, it's water under the bridge.
you learn from that, and now you're doing, so now you're doing fundraisers with all
Yeah, I
your
do.
memorabilia, right? Is
Yeah,
that,
I do. Yeah, we do fundraising with I've partnered up with Give Back Fundraising, and we raise money for charities. I still do my sports memorabilia. You know, I still wholesale across the country. I'm still staying busy. I'm 69 years old now. So
no, that's not old.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
young.
I'm still middle aged.
In today's standards, yes. We don't get
Yeah,
old now.
no, I'm staying active and still doing the things I do. And you know, like I say, you know, it did bankrupt me. I lost almost $2 million. You know,
Right.
so over all this with everything. So
You're
you know,
alive. You're
yeah,
alive.
live
And
doing well.
you're doing well. So that's how you have to look at it. I mean, you could have just died a poor man. At least you were
You know,
able to recoup and bring yourself
yeah.
around. And
You
and
know,
yeah,
I was involved with as you know, with helping bring the Raiders here to Las Vegas.
no, I didn't know that. I thought Bert did that.
Well, Bert and I were involved together with
Okay, I
that.
didn't know that you were involved. I only heard about Bert's side.
Yeah. Well, Bert and I, well, that was Bert and I, you know, that was in Mark Davis's office. I can tell you
Oh,
the date. It was June 12th of 2013.
wow. So it was you and Bert that got the Raiders there.
Yeah, we were in Mark Davis's office, June 12th, 2013.
What made you go there? Why? What made you guys think that they should be in Vegas instead of California?
Because Vegas, it was the ideal market.
Hmm.
You know, Mark Davis was actually thinking about moving them back to LA. You know, that's what we had talked about. And I
Earthquakes and
said,
everything safer in
you
Vegas.
know, well, and the thing is, you know, like I told Mark, I said, Mark, there's already three teams looking at, and he said, three teams. No, there's only two. And I said, no, there's three. I said, you got the Rams, the Chargers, and Jacksonville. I said, Jacksonville. I said, come on, Mark, you're an owner. You don't know that?
Yeah,
It was funny.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
you
Why
know,
wouldn't we know that?
and he said, well, Vegas is too small a market. I said, we're talking 2013. I said, Mark, there's 1.8 million people live in Vegas.
Hmm.
And I had to bring up Siri. How many people live?
Yeah,
Wow. And I said, at that time, I said, there's 45 million people a year visit Las
driving
Vegas.
through. Yeah.
I said, when every team that comes to Vegas, people are going to want to come and see them play their home team. Everybody wants an excuse to come to Las Vegas.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, this was the ideal place.
Okay.
Now we had some stupid people that put the stadium right in the middle of town. You know, I mean, it's the biggest traffic jam in the world. There's one way in, one way out.
Mm.
You know, we built it in the
I wasn't
dumbest
thinking
place
when I
in the
built that.
world.
I didn't remember that.
Well, now they're going to do the same thing with the A's. They're putting the ballpark right in the middle of town. Talk about a cluster.
Oh
You know,
yeah. Oh my
you know,
God.
they were the only smart place they built was the Speedway. We got plenty of land all over this town.
I have a friend that goes to Speedway.
And they're building they're building these stadiums in the middle of town. It's stupidity.
Wait a minute, I did go to the Speedway when I was there.
Yeah, we've got a beautiful speedway, all kinds of parking,
Yes.
all kinds of, you know, I mean, it's
Was that a parking
beautiful.
lot? I was a parking lot. Remember, I went to something there that was going on with some race cars
Yeah,
and stuff.
we keep building stadiums that you can't get in and out of.
Mm.
My wife and I my wife is handicapped. It's hard for her to walk. It took us, because you can't, there's only 1,600 parking spots.
Yeah.
You have to park 4.5 blocks away.
Wow.
It is so bad. And they've never run the tram in. They have never run. It's stupidity. That's
Wow.
all I can say. That's all I can say.
We're running out of our time here, and anything else we want to talk about quick before we head off?
It's always great talking with you.
I know, we could just keep going and going and going with another podcast. So yeah, we can always do another one because but you should take some like videos or something on your some of your fundraisers that you go to.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. I just got back
You
from
do a
one
great
where
thing with that. That needs to be talked about, your fundraisers and what you're doing today.
yeah, we just raised money for the arts down in San Antonio this last weekend. We just raised, and I do a lot of charities for children,
Okay.
for the military. Being prior military myself, I enjoy raising money for the military and for veterans. Our veterans need there's a lot of help needed for veterans, and so there's a lot of good causes out there, and
So maybe,
times are tough out there. So
yeah, so maybe we'll wrap around another time. We'll get some
I would
footage,
love to.
yeah, on some of your fundraising that you do. And listen, there's more to Bruce other than OJ robbing you.
Yeah. And if anybody ever wants to see with some of the stuff that I do sell on eBay, go to PSA-JSA and you can see some of the stuff I put up on eBay. I've got some great prices and some great memorabilia up there.
Yeah.
Little cheap plug for me there.
Yeah. Well, no, we want to do that. I also probably I'll have Phil put something up on the screen too as well, if we can try to get that in there. So
Sure.
Why not? You got a good product there. You got some good stuff going on. Well, Bruce, it was great talking to you again, and we'll probably see you again. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure as always.